What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Saint Gus Productions. This is the making of Dante Jermaine's Eternal Sunshine. This is the first in a series of making of videos that I'm putting together for some of my favorite projects, so if you're interested in behind the scenes content about audio production and beat making, please be sure to like and subscribe. And if you'd like to hear some more of my music or some of the artists I've worked with, please check out the links below. Anyways, let's begin. So a brief bit of background info. Dante and I have been friends for years, and he's actually one of the first artists and producers that I've ever collaborated with. I met Dante when I was working and going to college in Richmond, Virginia, and we bonded over a mutual love of music, recording, and video games. So we'd get together every month or so to hang out and make beats, just whenever we could between classes, work, and our own personal projects. A lot of those sessions were just us experimenting and having fun, but some of those tracks ended up on his early mixtapes and even on his album, The Need to Grow. After we graduated, Dante relocated to San Antonio, Texas, and I moved back home to Lynchburg. We both got new jobs, continued with our own projects, and stayed in touch on social media. A few years passed and it was uncertain if we would ever be able to collab again like the old days, until... So this was going to be our first time working together remotely, and while it wouldn't be quite like being in the same room and bouncing ideas off each other in real time, I was up for the challenge and I got started on it that weekend. Got the messages about the beat on Wednesday, got started on it that weekend on Friday night. Keeping in mind what he was going for, he said something with some jazz influence, some piano sounds, some guitar center riffs, and some 808 sounds. And then he said he wanted something more up-tempo. So the first thing I did was I set the tempo to 145. I just started off with a piano, a synth, and a drum rack. And I figured I would layer the piano and the synth and just get a chord progression going. This is the first idea that I came up with. Layered it with the Tyrell N6. One thing I did after that I really like to do while I'm making a beat was I changed the key. It's a quick way to refresh your ears and just kind of hear the beat with a different character and color, especially early on. I never really know which key I want to stick with until I'm further along. Pitched everything up +2. Once I had the key changed, I came up with a little melody over top of that. I thought this was an okay idea, but overall I was getting bored of it after listening to it for a while, and when I called it a night I figured I would probably start a different idea the next day, but same tempo, same sounds and everything, and basically try a different chord progression because I was getting kind of bored of this one. Here we are on day 2. This is Saturday night of that week. So like I said, I was starting a new idea with the same template. Still wanted to do something jazzy with the chords, but I was kind of hitting a wall with things to try off the top of my head. Figured I should take this time to just kind of look out some reference tracks, maybe find some lessons, just look for some different chord voicings or progressions to try. At one point I literally searched jazz pop chords on Google. Pretty soon I saw this video by Rick Beato.
Hi everyone, I'm Rick Beato. In today's Everything Music, I'm going to show you 4 chord progressions that are jazz progressions that you can use in your pop songs.
So this was the second example in his video, and it sounded really cool, so I just decided I was going to do something with that. So I watched that tutorial, learned how to play it, got it into Ableton. And the tutorial here resolves it to a minor 6/9 chord, but I decided to go to a major 7th instead because I figured that was a better fit for this beat. And then from there, I just experimented by recording and editing the main chord progression until it sounded right. So I really like the weight of those chords, and it had like the nice uplifting sound and the right voicings, I think. So I decided to stick with that. Brought the pads back in, just kind of browse presets for a little bit. Kind of a nice like 80s pad sound. And then the next one that I did, but together everything sounds like this. After I got those chords down, I came up with a little melody. So once again, I was changing the key a lot through this process. Still really hadn't made a final decision on that by this point, and I would actually end up changing it again later, but for this session, I settled on +10. At this point, I feel like I had like a pretty good foundation down, and I already like this way better than the first idea, so I feel like this was a good stopping point, and I called it a night here and decided to just get back to it the next day. So this is where I was on Sunday night. One of the first things I did was I went and added a ride onto this intro, a ride and a kick, using Addictive Drums, one of my favorite drum plugins. After I got that ride and the kick thing down on the intro, I changed the key to +8 semitones rather than +10. By this point, I'm sure you're seeing a repeat pattern here. Towards the end of the night, I was focusing on the kick, just trying out different patterns underneath this loop that I had here. Later on, I was playing with it in piano roll, and I didn't know it at the time, but moving this kick over to here actually ended up making me chase my tail the next day for a while. I was just kind of overthinking it, and I figured that this last chord here also needed a kick because all the other ones had a kick right when the chord came in, so at the time, I thought it sounded okay, and it kind of made sense. So I was like, all right, yeah, this pattern's starting to fall into shape, and I called it a night pretty much. And all right, so here we are on day 3 of working on this beat. This is now Monday. So yeah, I woke up that day, opened up the beat, and just listened to it for a while, but didn't really know how to proceed from here. You know, all I really had was this intro and an 8-bar loop. And things were starting to sound off because I had heard it so many times. I was getting kind of tired of this piano melody. The 808 hats were starting to sound a little stale and lifeless. Just starting to second guess this chord progression too. None of these parts were really bad, of course. The main problem, like I was saying earlier, was that kick, but for whatever reason, I just didn't think to revisit that. Kind of revisited everything but that, unfortunately. Still wasn't feeling it. My ears were even more tired than before, and I was just kind of feeling stuck. I even considered starting a third beat by this point, but the moment it turned around was when I finally went back to that drum pattern. It took me a minute to realize it, but having this kick right here just made it feel like weirdly abrupt, whereas having it here kind of gave it like some bounce. It just felt better there, basically. Right away, I was just kind of like, oh yeah, that was the problem. That's why I was, kind of getting tired and uninspired on this thing, and I was going to get some more kicks in there, some subdivisions and stuff like that later on, and some variation, but I was happy with this for now. The second thing besides the kick was this hi-hat. What I ended up doing there was layering it with a real hi-hat. Just a nice close hi-hat pattern. And right away, I just loved that. I thought it put so much more life into the track. I liked that I could get the sound of the 808 closed hat in there, but still get the expressiveness of the real hat, and I thought they sounded really good blended together. So after I had those hi-hats in place and sounding good, the next thing I did was I bumped the tempo up by 2 to take it up to 147, just because I felt like it could be just a little bit faster. Nice. At this point, I was about ready to try some stuff on guitar. I changed the arrangement from 8 bars to 32, added some variation to the kick, did a little bit of mixing and tweaking, and then I had this. Okay, so once I had this ready, I rendered this out to a WAV file and brought it into a fresh session to record guitar ideas. For my guitar tone, I'm using the Archetype Plini plugin by NeuroDSP, and then I have a delay and a reverb after that, and that's pretty much it. Around this time, I'd been watching videos by guitarists like Tim Henson and Ichika Nito, and I was messing around a little bit with the tapping technique, which is something I had never really done much of before, and then I came up with this part. At the time I was thinking like, oh yeah, this might be too much, but I'll record it anyway. I thought it sounded cool. I was having fun with it, and there was like just a novelty of learning a new guitar technique or something. So it actually took me a few tries to get it down for that reason. After that, I came up with this little just arpeggio kind of thing with some subtle whammy bends. Then afterwards, I just did this little extra take of me bending because I wanted to experiment with chopping those into smaller samples and layering them in. I thought they'd be cool, and I even named the track Little Bendy Doos. So yeah, once I had these guitar tracks recorded, I brought them back into my main session. By this point, it's around 5 p.m. on Monday, and I'd been at it for most of the day. Listening back, I realized that I had kind of been tuning out the piano melody while I was laying down this guitar part. And now that I heard them both together, I kind of felt like they were clashing. I figured they needed to be in separate sections, so that was like my first clue about the structure. And I moved that piano melody so that it starts after this guitar part. The arpeggio part does the following 16 bars, and so that makes for a 32 bar verse, and from there it goes back to the intro and then to the hook and so on. So I was almost done for the night. I just had a few little things to take care of first. I experimented with some of the pads kind of going in and out in certain sections, some more variations to the kick. The last thing I did was a quick recording of bass. And I figured this was a great stopping point. Still had some slight reservations about using that tapping part in the hook. At the same time, I thought it starts the beat off really well. It ties the intro and the main beat together really well, and Dante would be able to tell me if it was too busy, if it was going to potentially clash with, a vocal hook that he had planned or something. So yeah, I sent him this and called it a night. So from here we talked about how Dante wanted the beat structured. We kept it how it was from the intro all the way through the first chorus, and then for the second verse, Dante had the idea of switching the order of the piano and the guitar melodies just to give it like a little subtle change up. He also decided on the length and the arrangement of the bridge and how he wanted the beat to end. I thought all these were great ideas, so I got right to it. I sent him another test clip just to make sure I had it right, and then after that, the beat was officially done. So closing thoughts. Although we weren't able to collab in person like the old days, I still felt like this was a project where we both had an equal amount of input. It was a fun challenge to see what I could come up with just using the styles and sounds that he suggested, and once I had enough parts in place, I basically left it up to Dante to decide on the final structure of the beat. So overall, not a bad workflow for being 1,500 miles away from each other. Just want to say thanks to Dante for letting me be a part of his new album, and I'm stoked to hear the rest of it. Definitely do yourself a favor and check it out in the links below. I hope y'all enjoy. Thank you for watching.